Before you type skill issue, I want you to consider the following. I've beaten the original Hollow Knight. I've played a number of games on the hardest difficulty. Heck, I even beat Kingdom Hearts 1 at level 1, which is one of my greatest accomplishments. I've beaten all of the Castlevanias in terms of like the Metroidvanias, and I've even gotten like the speedrun trophy for Metroid Samus Returns on 3DS. So I am by no means a casual gamer. In fact, if anything, I'm usually so skilled at games that I sometimes struggle to relate to people struggling with other stuff I found easy. But enough of stroking my own ego. The reason I'm making this is I want to give a first impressions for Hollow Knight Silksong and list out a lot of what I think is missing from the original. Missing isn't exactly the right word, just not done as well. It was bothering me, so before I made this video, I went back to play the original Hollow Knight for around 5 hours, which was around the same time that I did my first stream. Well, actually, my first stream was 7 hours, but regardless. I now know that Hollow Knight really eases you into the difficulty, but Silksong does not. It is brutal, basically, once you leave the first area. Now, let's address the big elephant in the room, and that's the double damage. I thought I was crazy. So, like I said, went back to the original Hollow Knight, fought a bunch of the bosses, even a quote-unquote secret boss that gives you a mask shard, and only one boss that I remember had a attack that dealt double damage. Nearly everything else, even if it was a big body, only dealt 1 damage, which was, you know, perfectly fine. But in Silksong, as far as I think the second boss, everything it does is dealing 2 damage. And it's just, yes, you have a heal that heals you for 3 damage, but gaining soul or silk in that game is far harder to do than compared to the original Hollow Knight. And I hope I'm making sense with that, because in the original Hollow Knight, you could stand still in place and heal up. It took a while, yes, but generally the enemies gave you at least a little bit of breathing room to be able to do that. Now again, in Silksong, at least you can heal in mid-air, something I should be using more often. But regardless, that doesn't take away the impact of everything dealing double damage. And I also looked it up. Even enemies in like the Godmaster mode, the boss rush mode, they don't deal double damage either. They still deal, like, for the most part, single target damage. And only like the super bosses have like everything they do deal double damage. Now, that's one point out of the way that I think the double damage is a problem. And I'll talk later about what I think can be done with that, but that's not my only issue with Silksong. Something about the exploration in Silksong, while the quality of life is better, it feels like the areas aren't as... I don't know how to phrase it, but it feels like the areas don't reward your exploration enough compared to the original. Like, I have done all the side quests that I can at this current moment, and the place I'm at is the place right before I enter the Citadel. And I still only have one mask. No, not one mask. I haven't upgraded my health even once. And that's just kind of ridiculous to me because, again, when I went back and played Hollow Knight, I already had almost 2 health upgrades by the 5-hour mark. But with this game, by the 10-hour mark, I still don't have a single mask upgrade. Granted, there is one area I think I haven't explored yet before I went to try to tackle the Citadel, but still. The point of a Metroidvania is to also feel powerful as you go, which I really feel in Silksong. You don't feel powerful. You always feel so fragile. Now, you have powerful tools, don't get me wrong. The problem with that, the tools are linked to your currency. Even though it's already a limited amount you can carry at once. Which means, if you ever, and I found this out the hard way and was one of the reasons I rage quit yesterday, if you die a second time and you lose all that currency, well, now you can't even use your tools. It's like once you run out of them, you're gonna have to go to an area and grind your tools back. Which, yeah, that's fun. I have a bullet list points of things here to talk about. The game does not reward you enough for a hard fight. Hard boss fight, to be exact. It's a psychological thing, but when you don't get a power soon after that boss fight, but have to go through 2 more rooms, it doesn't feel as good. In the original Hollow Knight, when you beat a boss and got a new power, it was basically almost instantly, at least from what I remember and the 5 hours I played through. I really do wish that the upgrades you get after beating a boss were almost instant. I can only think of a few instances where that happened with Silksong, and that was when I got, like, the beast style. Every other boss, I would beat it, then a few rooms later, then I would get a power-up. Alright, what's next? Style changes. It's a cool concept until you realize your memory lockets are limited, and you will just stick to one style until you get 3 to apply to another. I am not a fan of this. I had the second style, the one that makes them play a little similar to the Vessel from Hollow Knight, where you can actually pogo on things again. And I used my memory lockets on that, filling it up, and now I can use like 2 of everything. Okay, great. And then I was shocked when I tried to switch to the other style, and those are still locked, and I'm like, why would you do this? Now it incentivizes me to stick to one style only until I have enough memory lockets to unlock all the nodes of the other style. Because it's just like, I'm literally making myself weaker. I do not think this was implemented well. Now, let me get to the entire reason I'm making this video to begin with. The single worst aspect to me is the run back between bosses is by far the worst thing about this game. The last or final guardian, whatever its name is, right before entering the Citadel especially, that room is full of I'm not going to say super difficult platforming segment, but it's full of enemies that are rather annoying to get through. And it takes quite a while to climb up there, and you're probably going to get nicked once or twice because you're in a rush to get up there so you can actually fight the boss again. But it takes around 1 to 2 minutes every time you die. And as far back as I remember in the original Hollow Knight, this was not a thing. Maybe for a few bosses, but the amount of times this would happen in Silksong was just maddening to me. And it's genuinely the reason, not the double damage. That contributed to it, but the run back between bosses is the entire reason I've always avoided Dark Souls. And it's what made me rage quit the game, because I just was not having fun. I genuinely was having more frustration than fun. Rather than get excited to fight a boss, I would be like, oh, nope, this has the signs of a boss. Can't fight it yet. Gotta find a bench that's as close as possible so the run back isn't as bad. I did not think that in the original Hollow Knight, because if I died in the original Hollow Knight, oh, I may as well get on to this. When you die, there's a cocoon of silk left behind where you can get all your currency back. The problem with that, if you die in a boss fight, it's literally spawned at right where you died. So, if you want to get it, and you were a little far into the boss's fighting range, you have to get your cocoon and beat the boss. You don't have the choice to just be like, all right, I'll come back here later. No, you have to fight it again immediately, or you will lose all of your stuff. The only way to circumvent this is dying as far away as possible from the starting boss fight area, because you can enter the boss fight area without triggering it as long as you don't step in too far. So if your character dies around that range, you can get your cocoon back and leave to, do something else rather than have to fight the boss. Again, that was not a thing in the original Hollow Knight, where when your little soul was there, it would be right before a boss fight. It would just be right before it. Same room, but you never had to, kill the soul to get your stuff back during a boss fight. At least as far back as I remembered. Alright, let me look through my list of things. Oh, right. Besides the final / last guardian before the Citadel, the place that really made me realize this was going to be an issue and what made me want to stop playing, even before that, was the Red Ant area. As far as I know, there is no bench in that area, and the only way you have to checkpoint yourself is to literally leave one of the areas, to leave that area, and then go to a bench in that area. And then you have to trek through 5 to 7 rooms just to get back to a boss fight, which it's just pretty ridiculous, guys. We need more benches right before bosses. This is a ridiculous. Well, no, there was a bench in there was a bench in the Red Ant area, but it's booby trapped to deal 2 damage. So you can't even have that, which, screw you, Team Cherry. Not cool. I'm pretty sure I went over this, but like I said, in the original Hollow Knight, with the whole double damage thing, it was reserved for enemies, specific bosses, and some enemies with a specific attack. But with boss battles, you're always dealing double damage and you're dying in 3 to 4 hits. It's just kind of insane. Okay, we're getting near the end of the video. It's not just a get good issue, because even some people that beat the original Hollow Knight, like me, are saying it's insanely hard. I've even seen some people say they beat the God Pantheon slash Godmaster, aka the Super Boss Rush mode, saying it's too hard. So no, this isn't just a skill issue. You feel so weak in the game, and the double damage plus sheer amount of clutter around the screen for boss fights is insane to deal with. It's summoning like these little enemies, and it's a lot to pay attention to. At least as far as I know, the original Hollow Knight was not filled with stuff like that. Enemies were fast, but you could still track what they're doing. Until endgame, it wasn't like super cluttered. You had time to catch your breath. Not in this game. I'm not saying the game is even remotely bad, as what made Hollow Knight enjoyable is still there. Just the good is outweighed by the sheer frustration, and it's actively stopped me from wanting to continue. Because if every boss is going to have a longer and harder trek back to fight the boss, I'm good. And I may just stop until they release either some kind of balance patch, either a difficulty select that puts it on the same level or a bit harder than the original Hollow Knight, rather than being far more difficult to the point it's like playing Hollow Knight on Nightmare mode. Honestly, what I want above all else to make me keep playing, just put more benches right before a boss. Please. I can't stand this constant trek back. The original Hollow Knight didn't make you do this, to my knowledge, so why here? If you're enjoying Silksong, I'm glad you're having a blast, but genuinely, if someone says they aren't having a good time with the game, don't be an ass and say it's just a skill issue. Because when you got people that said they beat Godmaster and are still struggling in the game, even some saying it's not fun, it's not a skill issue anymore. It's just an insanely difficult game, even compared to the first. Unfortunately, there are some issues with the game I fear not even a difficulty patch can fix. For example, like I said, in the original Hollow Knight, I already had 2 additional health by the time I got to the 5-hour mark. But in Silksong, I don't even have a single health upgrade yet. And I bought all I can and explored every area as much as I can on the 10-hour mark. If there are any 2 ultimate changes to be made to the game that would bring me back to actually have fun with it, it would be 1, as I said before, some kind of difficulty select or balancing patch, and 2, more benches right before bosses. Seriously, that's my biggest issue. This is my first time doing like a first impressions or complaint about a game I've been streaming, and I'd be curious to know if you guys want more of these type of videos, because I've considered doing stuff like this for games that I'm streaming and giving a first impressions on like the first 2 streams, and then maybe making a full review later. Tell me what you guys think. Genuinely, I'm curious. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell, and I'm pretty sure there's also a new notification where... Blah, this is what happens when I don't have a script for an outro. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. See ya.
Data received.